chess friends, welcome to the FIDE World Chess Championship final round number 14. Gukesh defeated Liren and he became the world champion. His incredible brilliancy shows that he is capable of defeating every chess player but not me, Stockfish. This is a celebration moment for India, and I am very happy that Gukesh has become the world champion, the youngest chess champion in history. Today's day will be recorded in history with golden words. I am going to illustrate the game that they played. And I am going to illustrate the immortal game that they played, so stay tuned until the end of the video. Ding started the game with knight to f3 and we have d5, g3 follows in the game and Ding wants to control the center with the bishop and he will play defensively with d4 and c4. We have c5 on the board to control the center and Ding wants to play very casually. Knight to c6 will follow in the game with the idea of playing c6 or e5 and knight to f6, after a few moves later. We have d4 attacking the pawn, e6 follows in the game and Gukesh is playing more strategically. You can see that he can put his knight on f6 and in a few moves later you can see that Gukesh had the chance to consider bishop to c5 to gain access to this diagonal or play knight f6 because he is center controlling pawns, but he played knight to e7, that move is very defensive, and Liren gets the opportunity to consider c4 breaking open the center. If Gukesh tried to capture the pawn on c4, the bishop diagonal would be wide open. Now Ding would consider knight to b5 putting pressure on the d6 square with a queen opening file. A good move for black would be to consider knight to d5, but black will face challenges after the exchanges and bishop to f4 will arrive on the board to gain access to this dark square diagonal where the knight can invade, and the situation will be very problematic for Gukesh. Going back to the revision, we discovered that capturing the pawn on the c4 square would be a very nonsensical choice for Gukesh. That's why he first captured the knight on d4 and then he played knight to c6. That's a great move. He develops the knight with a tempo and then he considered d4 on the board because his pawns are very aggressive and he is supported by the queen. Bishop to c5 can follow in the game with the idea of playing short side castle. Ding immediately strikes in the center with e3 because Ding doesn't want to let Gukesh develop in the center and he wants to develop his bishop. Therefore, after the bishop here and some pawn exchanges later, we have knight to c3 on the board. This knight c3 is a very cunning move because the knight is posing the threat of considering knight to b5 where it can attack the knight back and create some dominance over the dark square where the bishop on f4 can arrive to get access to paralyze these dark squares. Also, the light is wide open with the idea of playing rook to e1 to get access to this file. The queen file is wide open also. Therefore, after castling, Ding shows his brilliancy by playing knight to b5. He wants to be the world champion, that's why he is riding with a horse in the championship match. But Gukesh says, hold on, I have bishop to b6, I am protecting my queen because the queens are just wide open. Do you want to do a queen exchange? Ding says, no, I am very happy with having my queen. I played b3 because I want to play bishop b2 and get access to this diagonal. Maybe in the future, I can play queen to g4 to attack the pawn on g7, that move is just bad. We have a6, the knight moves back and bishop to d4 follows in the game to gain access to this diagonal. Bishop b2 follows in the game and we have e5 to solidify the center. Ding faces some problematic situations because bishop to f5 can arrive to seize control over the diagonal. And the knight can also go to b4 to create some dominance over the light squares. Therefore, Ding has to play very carefully and he played queen to d2 and immediately played knight to d5 on the board because he wants to do center exchanges with his pieces. That's the plan of world champion game masters. They don't let their opponents do much development. If they get a chance to exchange the developing pieces, they will. Therefore, Gukesh first considered b5 on the board attacking the pawn because the knight is under attack by two pieces. After the exchanges occurred here, Ding played a very cunning move. Can you guess what Ding played in this position? Ding also surprised Gukesh with his cunning move. The move that Ding played is knight to f4 on the board. Knight f4 is very cunning because it first sacrifices the knight as a tempo, but it also opens up the bishop's diagonal and the bishop exchanges can be possible. Gukesh here thought for a while and played e takes f4 because he isn't afraid of anyone. He isn't afraid of the bishop takes bishop, and also bishop takes knight can be possible. Many players here might think of considering bishop takes d4, but is that move very good? Let me show you the variation. If you capture the bishop, then I will capture it back, and noticing my rook is under attack, you might be very glad to capture my rook, but hold on, I can split my coffee in your face by playing knight to f3, forking your pieces. Whenever you capture my knight, I will capture your queen and the world championship will be in my hand. Going back to our position, we discovered that bishop takes bishop is a very bad choice. That's why we have bishop takes e6 on the board. Ding shows his brilliancy by double attacking the rook and the bishop on d4 simultaneously on the board. Rook to c8 could be played by Gukesh, but Gukesh didn't play rook to c8 because after the exchanges occurred and capture and recapture, you can see that Ding will be left with one extra pawn. This position would be a draw for black, but Ding wouldn't have any future. I mean, Gukesh wouldn't have any future with the pieces because they cannot advance and develop. So, going back to our position, Gukesh didn't consider rook to c8, he first captured the bishop, and after the exchanges, we have rook to b8 protecting the pawn on the b5 square. Now the queen can go there and the rook can join the party on the d8 square. Therefore, after rook e1, queen b6 attacking the bishop and the queen gets the open diagonal, the bishop moves back and we have some pawn exchanges and b4 on the board. Gukesh is trying to lock down the position where a3 cannot be possible, but Ding says, "Are you crazy? I can still play a4 on the board, and what would you do? Would you do en passant?" Gukesh says, "Yes, let me play en passant," and you can see that the b3 pawn is well protected by the rook and queen, which pawn is under attack by black's three pieces. Here, Gukesh first played g6 on the board because he wants to create some breathing room for the king where rook to d8 or any back rank check may not come in the near future. Also, g6 forces the threat that the opponent has a light square bishop. That's why putting the pawns on the light square is very good. Therefore, the queen comes on d4, and in a few moves later, we have queen exchanges and this opens up. We are delving into the endgame and Ding says, "No, I want to do all the pieces exchanges." That's why he played rook to a8. He wants to go for a tie-break round for the next game, but Gukesh says, "No, hold on, I have something special for you. Let me play bishop g6. In a few moves later, you can see we have h5 on the board because Gukesh is very determined to win this game and become the world champion. Now, after a few moves, you can see that they are just trying to develop their pieces, and we finally have g4, where f5 can be possible. A few moves later, we have f5, followed by pawn exchanges on g4, leaving one pawn against two. However, this position is very dry because the rook is cutting off the king's file, preventing it from crossing to the other side. After a few more moves, we have rook to d2 check, king to e3 would be possible, but we see king to g1, after king to f6, you may notice how the rook is protecting the fourth rank. A few moves later, we have bishop to a8 and rook to f4 on the board. The rook is cutting off the edge, preventing the king from escaping through this rank to e3. The bishop is doing a very good job, and now we have king to e5. This becomes a critical question for Ding Liren. What should he play? Ding Liren could play rook to a4 or rook to f1 on the board, but not rook to b4. Rook to b4 would be a blunder. If Ding played rook to a4, it would be a very good move because it cuts off the king's rank, preventing it from escaping through the fourth rank. The bishop is also cutting off the diagonal. Both the bishop and rook are doing an excellent job. You might consider playing bishop to d5, and after the bishop exchanges, the king moves there, and after some checks, king to e2 will arrive. It may look like the white king is in trouble, but there is rook to a1, after rook to b3, king to g2 will arrive to protect the pawn, and the white king will be very secure. Black has nothing to do and will have to face the checkmating sequence, or rather, the draw sequence. The game will lead to a draw. So, let me share an inspirational quote in sudden with you. Life is just a blink of an eye. You never know when something may happen or end. Appreciate all, and have no regret at the end. Going back to the question, rook to a4 would be a considerable option. Another alternative move Ding Liren could play is rook to f1, putting the rook on the first rank so the king can move to d4 or e3. That's exactly what will happen. However, The problem for the black king is that the f-file will be well protected by the rook, and the king cannot go there. The bishop is guarding the diagonal, black will face a draw, and Gukesh will not become the world champion. But in this position, Liren didn't play rook to a4 or rook to f1, he played the blunder move rook to f2. This is a blunder because after rook takes rook, king takes rook, and bishop to d5, the bishop has no choice but to exchange the pieces. At the end of the day, it will be 2 pawns versus 1, which is completely winnable for black. After king to e3 and king to e5, the white king has 2 options, to play king to d3 or king to f2. If king to d3 happens, black can simply play f4, forcing the king to capture the pawn. After capture and recapture, you will see that black gets a passed pawn, then black can play king to g3 and king to h2, and pawn promotion will be inevitable, white cannot stop it. So, going back to the position, king to d3 is a very bad option. If white plays king to f2, black has 2 options, king to e4 or king to d4, what would you consider? Let me know in the comments below. If you ask me about the difference between these 2 moves, yes, there is a difference. First, if black plays king to e4, it will be a drawable position, the evaluation bar will show 0.00 because white can play king there. After f4, with capture and recapture, and the king moving, g3 check will arrive, the white king can block the pawn entry. After black plays king there, g2 will arrive somehow, and black will have to play king to g3, leading to a drawable position. Why? Black has nothing to do in this position. Going back to the position, we discovered that playing king to e4 would be a very bad choice. The best move for black would be to consider king to d4. After this, if white plays king to e2, black can play king there, forcing white to play king to f2 to protect the pawn. Then black can play king to d3, protecting the e2 square. The white king will have no squares to escape to and will be forced to hide on g2. After king to e2, the black king can occupy the f2 square, white will have to abandon the g3 pawn, allowing black to capture it and promote it into a queen. By this sequence, black wins the game, becomes the champion, and Gukesh becomes the youngest world champion. I am very proud of him. This is a beautiful moment for India. I hope you enjoyed the game very much. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wish you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.